आपकी नजरें आना
the first year there. You are the leader. You are the leader.
I request our President, Mr. Rakesh Kumar Khanna, and our Vice President, Mr. Jitendra Mohan Sharma, to kindly escort Honorable Mr. Justice Sharad Arvind Bobde, Honorable the Chief Justice of India, Honorable Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, Union Minister for Law and Justice, Communications and Information Technology, Mr. K.K. Venugopal, Learned Attorney General for India, for lighting of the lamp, and then escort them to the dais.
Oh my goodness. The lamp is there.
Lamp is there.
Can you bring it here?
Baldev ji,
We have fire
मैम वहीं बुला लीजिए, वहीं बुला लीजिए।
I request you all to kindly stand up for the national anthem sung by the blind school choir.
शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तब जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे जय।
I request Mr. Rohit Pandey, Joint Treasurer Scba, to present a bouquet of flowers to Honorable Mr. Justice Sharad Arvind Bobde, Honorable the Chief Justice of India. I request Mr. Vikas Bansal, Treasurer Scba, to present bouquet of flowers to Honorable Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, Union Minister for Law and Justice, Communications and Information Technology. I request Mr. Amarendra Kumar Singh, Member Executive, to present bouquet of flowers to Mr. K.K. Venugopal, Learned Attorney General for India. I now request our President, Mr. Rakesh Kumar Khanna, to kindly deliver the welcome address.
Honorable Mr. Justice Sharad Arvind Bobde, Honorable the Chief Justice of India, Shri Ravi Shankar Prasad ji, Honorable Minister for Law, Justice, Communication and IT, respected judges of the Honorable Supreme Court of India, my law officers, senior colleagues, and my brother and sister colleagues at Bar. I, on behalf of the Supreme Court Bar Association, welcomes all of you on this 70th Constitution Day, Law Day. The National Law Day was started by our former president, late Dr. L.M. Singhvi, in the year 1979, and we are continuously following the tradition. Because of the paucity of time, I will not take much of time so that we can hear our Chief Justice and the Law Minister. Thank you.
I shall now read out the Law Day Charter. We hold that law is the common heritage and trust of mankind, that administration of justice is one of the fundamental functions of the state, and that judges and lawyers owe their allegiance by the traditions, training, and tenets of the noble profession to the cause and quest of justice. We believe that the discipline of law is indispensably essential for the authoritative and peaceful resolution of all conflicts, for ensuring the orderly development of society, for maintaining the rule of law, for promoting social justice, for safeguarding liberty, and for protecting basic human rights and fundamental freedoms. We affirm that the independence and impartiality of the judiciary and the freedom and independence of the legal profession constitute the sheet anchor of social order, individual freedom, and equal justice in our society. We acknowledge the social responsibilities and the professional obligations of law in public interest and public service. We emphasize, in particular, the need to ensure equal and universal access of the people to the system of justice, especially to the poor, the weak, the deprived, and the downtrodden, the need for legal literacy and legal aid, and the need for social audit and evaluation of laws and for scientific, rational, and pragmatic law reform. We pledge and dedicate ourselves on this day, the Constitution Day, to the premises and postulates of this proclamation. I now request Honorable Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, Union Minister of Law and Justice and Communications and Information Technology, to kindly deliver his address.
Honorable the Chief Justice of India, Justice Bobde, Honorable Judges of Supreme Court, the distinguished Attorney General of India, Mr. Venugopal, the President and all the office bearers of the Supreme Court Bar Association, my friends lawyers, I look forward for this day because this in many ways reminds me what I am missing for the last more than 5 years. My black coat and the favorable Supreme Court atmosphere I was used for the last more than 10 years. It appears for the coming 5 years, I shall not be available here. Therefore, I will continue to look forward eagerly for coming here, renewing my contacts and meeting all of you. Very briefly, ladies and gentlemen, and my young lawyers in particular, Law Day and 26th of November, the day we dedicated to ourselves this great document called the Constitution of India, is a phenomenal moment in the annals of world history. Why I say so? Go through the background at the formation of India's constitution. India was partitioned on religious lines. There was uprooting of millions of people, mayhem of millions of peoples. In spite of all these tensions, our founding fathers, who were leaders of great foresight, statesmanship and scholarship, trusted ordinary Indians with the power to choose their destiny through popular franchise, regardless of their caste, their community, their religion, their literacy, and their income. There were naysayers then. Are you trusting too much the ordinary Indians? But this extraordinary trust of the founding fathers in the capacity of ordinary Indians to chart out the destiny of India has given great dividends. Today, ordinary Indians know who they are and what they owe to themselves. And they also recognize their power to unseat any political leader, howsoever powerful, and any party, howsoever powerful, from center or from the state. And also trusting any political leader trustworthy to bring him back to power. This understanding of India's democratic polity has brought about its own sanity in the democratic discourse of India in spite of occasional hiccups. And when I stand in the precincts of this great institution, the Supreme Court has played a stellar role by its independence and by very, I would say, extraordinary interpretation of the values of our Constitution, which has led to empowerment of ordinary people. And therefore I always say, India's Constitution is based on a trinity. On the first is the dignity of ordinary Indians. And that dignity is very important. Equality flows from there. And the second is justice. He must have access to adjudication of his grievance. And the third most important is empowerment. In terms of equality, in terms of equity, this triangle of dignity, this triangle of empowerment, this triangle of justice, these three triangles have wedded India's diverse polity, a country of great diversity in a great firm block. I have to speak in the subsequent function more on our heritage, because the time is short. But I would recommend to the Supreme Court Bar Association that the entire background, the struggle, the framing of the Constitution should become a benchmark of study for all our young lawyers in particular. Then you are able to understand what this Constitution was about. And whenever I see the judgments of Supreme Courts of India, I had shared with Justice Bobde in a function earlier that about 2 weeks ago I had gone to Sri Lanka in the Commonwealth Law Ministers Conference. And then my reception organized in the Embassy of India, many Supreme Court judges of the Sri Lankan High Court had come. And all of them said, we eagerly look forward to the judgment of Supreme Court of India to learn, to decide, and also to look forward. That was indeed a great day, a great celebration of the achievement. Rakesh, we have been talking about issues of your association. That will be postponed some for the other day because of paucity of time. But one thing I can tell you, and this I always say, not necessarily as the Law Minister of India, but this I always say in my various capacities as an activist of my student life, as a member of Parliament, experience of governance, and also as a person observing India's evolution in the last close to 40 years of my activism in public life, right from my student days. And ladies and gentlemen, my take is, trust the idea of India. And trust the idea created by the abiding values of the Constitution. That is the only right way. And trust the authority, might of the judicial system led by the apex court. They have settled many of the dichotomy, ironed out many creases, and left a great imprint. I would urge my lawyer friends to understand one important thing on Law Day. What is the might of the judiciary? Is it the authority of law? Is it the power of contempt? Yes, they are important. Integral to the concept of rule of law. But remember one thing very, very important. The real authority of the judiciary is the moral authority. And when you talk of constitutional morality, this moral authority acquires added significance. And all of us owe a collective commitment that this moral authority remains firm and shining. Today I would like to recall a particular instance which I mentioned in this very function some good number of years ago when I was the Minister of State in the Bajpayee government handling law. Now I had mentioned one instance which has reinforced my view about it. How is it that one additional district judge gives capital punishment to a serial killer or a mafia don, who at a drop of a hat kill even a police officer through his henchman. But how is it that when a capital punishment is awarded by an additional district judge or a district judge after trial, the same district judge is moving after retirement with his wife in a simple market and no one raises a finger? That is the power of the moral authority of the judiciary, which we all need to remember, strengthen and rededicate. I think if we keep these narratives in mind, surely the sparkling principles of our constitutional governance would become the more strengthened. And therefore, addressing my young friends whom I see in large number, please imbibe those qualities. We are a blessed people that we live in India, having a great civilizational heritage. We are a blessed people that we live in a democratic polity. And we are a blessed people where we live in a rule of law, where an independent judiciary led by the Supreme Court holds the beacon to make it stable and strong. That is how I see this great document of our Constitution. Therefore, this year we have taken a further initiative that rights are important, they must be respected. But fundamental duties are equally important. And those duties are not because it came about under Article 51A. Those duties were also in the background of the framing of the Constitution. When you talk of Article 19, freedom of speech and expression, you also give reasonable restriction for the security and integrity of India, for public morality, for public order. This at the same time lays down a standard that while exercising your right, you owe your duty for the security and safety of India, for public order and particularly public morality. This has been the shining principle. We all have to work together that India's potential must be unraveled properly. And sometime if I get chance to talk to you on my other department as an IT minister, the metamorphosis I am seeing happening in India of empowerment of ordinary young men, it is a great satisfaction for me. And I'll conclude that emerging contours by only giving two examples. We began the startup movements in 2015. India has become the third biggest startup movement in the world, with 24,000 plus startup, out of which 10,000 are technological startups. Out of which 24 are unicorn. Unicorn means having a turnover of $1 billion. And for me, it is a privilege to give my award to young boys and girls of 25 to 30 years, owning a startup and trying to conquer this world. And the Asia head of a top IT company one day met me and said, Mr. Minister, let me share the changing profile of India. Earlier when I used to go to IITs, we are a good paymaster. All the toppers of IIT used to run to us to get employment in campus selection. Now when we go, they say, sorry, we are going to start a startup. We want to become a job giver and not a job seeker. This is a new India emerging of confidence in the idea and strength of India. Let us rededicate ourselves to those values of rights, of duties, and the extraordinary sense of empowerment of common people will our Constitution always laid down. Thank you. Namaskar. Jai Hind.
I now request Honorable Mr. Justice Sharad Arvind Bobde, Honorable the Chief Justice of India, to kindly deliver his address.
The Honorable Minister for Law and Justice, my distinguished colleagues of the Supreme Court, the Attorney General for India, the President of the Bar, Shri Rakesh Khanna, office bearers of the Scba, the law officers, the members of the bar, senior advocates, ladies and gentlemen. The Indian Constitution called, I heard in some conferences, as the People's Constitution, was drafted on this very day in the year 1949. As the name suggests, this sacrosanct document represents the high watermark of consensus in India's history. It heralded fresh beginnings for a nation, still reeling from 2 centuries of injustices under colonial domination. Though a modern project, the overwhelming influence of ancient Indian culture and ethos on its provisions cannot be denied. It therefore reflects the best in our traditions and is a considered response to the wrongs of the past, the needs of the present, embodying enough resilience to cope with the demands of the future. It has 3 mutually dependent and inextricably intertwined strands: protecting and enhancing the national unity and integrity, establishing institutions and a spirit of democracy, but above all fostering a social revolution to transform India. It is more than a set of schedules and articles. It does more than merely establish institutions for the governance of India. Instead, it is truly transformative in character. It marked a transition from the culture of authority of the colonial regime to the culture of justification of democratic purity. Through our Constitution, 1 billion voices spoke as one, articulating a notion of a nation in which persons of all caste, creed, religion, race and gender could call home. Envisioning a unified nation, it embraced a multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religious polity, and in doing so fostered a heterogeneous cultural and social fabric. It sought to empower the individual through recognition and protection of their inalienable rights and fundamental freedoms, including those of equality, liberty, fraternity, and dignity. These norms and values were meant to ensure justice for all. I have always found it fascinating, the perspective of Sri Palkhiwala, that the Constitution represents a charter of power granted by liberty and not a charter of liberty granted by power. In celebrating the 26th November as the Constitution Day, we pay homage to the efforts of dedicated men and women who had in complete measure committed themselves to the making of this nation. I found it fascinating to read about one of the persons who made the initial draft. He was a district judge posted in Assam, I think, one Rao. And he started drafting the Constitution before independence. He used to read in the newspaper about Gandhiji's freedom movement and said he's going to become independent, so let me draft it. He drafted it prophetically, and later on I believe he was taken on to the drafting committee. Some of these things are so fascinating how people foresaw it. I believe it was Sri Aurobindo's birthday that we got independence. A common feature of the Constituent Assembly was its inclusiveness, with participation of not only the most prominent political leaders of the time, but also membership from various sections of society, including women, minorities, Dalits, and tribals. As a consequence, our Constitution today is reflective of a fine balance, blending diversity with unity, plurality with stability, pragmatism with idealism, formality with adaptability, liberty with security, all within a framework carefully designed to safeguard basic freedoms. The Constitution's goals could only be realized through institutions supported by people and occupied by persons well aware and committed to the constitutional goals. It therefore provides for an independent judiciary equipped with the power of judicial review. For a constitution is not but empty words if it cannot be enforced by the courts. Over the years, the Indian judiciary, led by the Supreme Court of India, has facilitated a social revolution, infusing it with renewed vigor and vitalism at crucial junctures of our nation's history. And I also get the same impression when I attend international conferences. Somehow, our constitution and our judiciary is viewed at very differently these days. And I echo the sentiments of Shri Prasad on this. Over the years, the Constitution has facilitated a social revolution, infusing with renewed vigor and vitalism. And in this year, we plan to give it a fillip, something more related to Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad's second portfolio. We propose to introduce, if possible, soon a system of artificial intelligence. There are many things which we need to look at before we introduce. We do not want to give the impression that it's ever going to substitute judges. And in the end, I would like to tell you that one thing that's not going to happen is that we are not going to introduce appeals from one computer to a bench of 3 computers. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
It is a long-standing tradition of the Scba to honor members of the bar who have completed 15 years of practice. Now, may I request Honorable the Chief Justice of India and Honorable the Law Minister to kindly present shawl to members as a token of respect. I call upon stage Dr. J.C. Batra, Senior Advocate, Mr. K.G. Bhagat, Advocate, Mr. Devendra Nath Pal, Mr. B.Y. Kulkarni, Mr. Uday Kant Jha and Dr. Janak Raj Jay. क्या करें रूट बंद होंगे सबके लिए हम लोग तो निकल जाएंगे तो लास्ट Now I call upon stage Mr. Azmat Hayat Amanullah and Ms. Neha Ravi Iyer, who have secured first and second position respectively in the Advocate on Record examination conducted by the Board of Examinations, Supreme Court of India in the year 2018. May I request Honorable the Chief Justice of India to kindly present a gold medal to Mr. Azmat Hayat Amanullah, Advocate on Record, on behalf of the Board of Examiner for the Advocate on Record of the Supreme Court of India, and give a certificate on behalf of Mukesh Goswami Memorial Fund and a check of Rs 501 on behalf of Scba. I now request Honorable the CJI to kindly present a silver medal to Ms. Neha Ravi Iyer, Advocate on Record, on behalf of Board of Examiner for the Advocate on Record of the Supreme Court of India, and a certificate on behalf of Mukesh Goswami Memorial Fund and a check of Rs 501 on behalf of Scba. Last year, Honorable Ms. Justice Indu Malhotra had started an award in the name of her late father, the O.P. Malhotra Award, which consisted of check of Rs 10,000 each for first and second position holders of Advocate on Record examination. From this year onwards, there is an addition to the award, and now it includes subscription of SCC online for 1 year. May I now request Honorable the Chief Justice of India and Honorable Ms. Justice Indu Malhotra to present the check of Rs 10,000 and SCC online subscription to Mr. Azmat Hayat Amanullah and Ms. Neha Ravi Iyer. Ma'am, this side. I request Honorable the CJI to hand over the running trophy of late PR Kumar Mangalam to Mr. Azmat Hayat Amanullah as topper in Advocate on Record examination, and a check of Rs 5,001 on behalf of the family of late PR Kumar Mangalam, a senior advocate and former member of this bar. As we would now honor the members who have written books by presenting certificate of honor.
The second also has.
Ms. Neha Ravi Iyer, second position Advocate on Record examination. As we would be honoring the members who have written books, so I request the members present in the gallery to kindly vacate the same so that Honorable the CJI could come and honor the members. Mr. R. Venkataramani, Senior Advocate. Mr. Kokar Raghav Rao, Senior Advocate. Mr. Vijay Hansaria, Senior Advocate. Mr. S. Balakrishnan, Senior Advocate. Mr. S.P. Singh Chauhan. Ms. Charu Wali Khanna. Captain R.S. Dul. Mr. Mukesh Bhutani. Mr. G. Sheshigiri Rao. Mr. H.L. Kumar, Mr. Virag Gupta, Mr. Jose Ibrahim, Dr. Nishesh Sharma, Mr. Pranab Mullik, Dr. Jay Prakash Gupta, Mr. Rajkumar Gupta, Mr. Pradeep Deshmukh, Mr. Devashish Baruka, Mr. Shiv Kumar Suri and Mr. Shikhil Suri, Mr. L.K. Thakur, Mr. Brij Mohan Bharti, Mr. Harpreet Sandhu, Dr. Balram Singh, Mr. Tarun Jain, Dr. Karnika Seth. I thank you all on behalf of SCBA.
पीछे देख पीछे हट जाओ हाँ सर बार बोला मैं आ जाओ मनोज जी थोड़ा साइड से तो आ जाओ मैंने इधर हाँ चलो 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 बढ़िया सर आइए सर फोटो बनवा दूँ पार्लियामेंट चल रहा है रास्ता बंद गाँव में बात करूँ हो गया आज हो गया धन्यवाद थैंक यू वीडियो वाला साइज सेट कर रखा है सर एक बार